There's something about working nights in empty buildings that changes you. Not the loneliness, not the silence, those you get used to. It's what the cameras see when you're not looking, what they record in rooms you know are empty, hallways you've walked 1,000 times, floors that shouldn't exist. I collected these stories over the years, from people who worked security, night maintenance, anyone who stayed behind when everyone else went home. They all said the same thing at the end.
The cameras remember things we've forgotten, and sometimes they show us things we were never supposed to see.
I took the security job at the Meridian office complex in October 2019. The building had been empty for 3 years. Corporate bankruptcy, legal disputes, the kind of place that gets frozen in time while lawyers argue. My job was simple. Walk the floors twice per shift, check the cameras, make sure nobody broke in. The pay was decent. The work was easy. I should have known it was too easy. The security office was on the ground floor. 12 monitors showing feeds from 42 cameras throughout the building. Most floors had 3 or 4 cameras, stairwells, main corridors, fire exits. Standard setup. Except for camera 31. I noticed it on my second night. The feed showed a long hallway, fluorescent lights, beige wells, office doors on both sides, the kind of corridor you'd see in any building from the 80s. But the image quality was wrong. Everything else was sharp, digital, high definition. Camera 31 looked like it was filmed on VHS. Grainy, washed-out colors, that distinct tape texture. I checked the equipment log. Camera 31 was listed as decommissioned in 2016, replaced with a newer model during renovations that never finished. It shouldn't have been sending a signal at all. I went looking for it on my next round. The building had 6 floors. I knew every corridor, every room. I'd memorized the layout in my first week. But I couldn't find the hallway from camera 31. The angle suggested it was on the 4th floor, eastern wing. But when I got there, the layout was completely different. The corridor ran north to south, not east to west. The walls were painted gray, not beige. The office doors had windows. The ones in the camera feed didn't. I checked the blueprints in the security office. There was no hallway matching camera 31 anywhere in the building, not on any floor. The movement. I started watching camera 31 more carefully. Most of the time, it just showed the empty hallway. Lights on, doors closed, nothing moving. But sometimes, around 2 or 3 a.m., I'd catch something. A shadow passing across one of the doorways, too quick to see clearly. A door opening slightly, then closing. Once, I saw what looked like someone walking past the camera. Just for a second, a dark shape moving from left to right, then gone. I rewound the footage. The timestamp said it happened at 2:47 a.m. I checked my phone. It was 2:51 a.m. I'd been watching the live feed. I decided to do something stupid. I printed out a screenshot from camera 31. Then I walked every floor of the building, every hallway, every wing, comparing the image to what I saw. It took me 3 nights. I never found it. The hallway didn't exist. Not anymore. Maybe it never did. But on the 4th night, I found something else. On the 6th floor, there was a storage room. Old furniture, filing cabinets, boxes of abandoned office supplies. In the back corner, behind a stack of conference tables, I found a door. It was painted the same beige as the walls in camera 31. The door was locked. No handle. Just a keyhole that looked decades old. I tried my master key. It didn't fit. I stood there for a long time, looking at it, listening. There was a sound coming from the other side. Faint, rhythmic, like footsteps on tile. Back and forth, back and forth. I put my ear against the door. The footsteps stopped. Then I heard something else. breathing. Right on the other side, inches from my face. I stepped back. My heart was hammering. The flashlight shook in my hand. I waited. Nothing happened. I went back to the security office. Camera 31 was still showing the empty hallway. Lights on, doors closed. But now I noticed something I'd missed before. At the far end of the corridor, barely visible in the grainy footage, there was a figure, standing perfectly still, facing the camera. I started documenting everything. Camera 31 showed activity every night between 2:30 and 4 a.m. Shadows moving in doorways, doors opening and closing, sometimes lights flickering, and always, at some point, that figure at the end of the hall. I tried to get a better look, zoomed in as far as the old feed would allow. The figure was tall, wearing what looked like a security uniform, dark shirt, light pants, belt with equipment, just like mine. I convinced myself it was just video noise, compression artifacts, a trick of the low resolution. But then I noticed the timestamp. Every time the figure appeared, the timestamp on camera 31 was wrong. It showed dates from 2015, 2014, sometimes 2012. The camera wasn't showing the present, it was showing the past. I called the property management company, asked about the security guards before me, who worked the building before it was abandoned. The woman on the phone was quiet for a moment. Then she said there was a guard named Marcus Chen. He worked the night shift from 2011 to 2015. He disappeared during his shift in March 2015. They found his car in the parking lot, his jacket in the security office, his phone on the desk. But Marcus was gone. They searched the entire building, checked every room, every closet, every storage space. Nothing. The police investigated for months. Security footage showed him entering the building at 10 p.m. After that, nothing. He just vanished. The building shut down 6 months later. Unrelated reasons, or so they said. I went back to the 6th floor that night. Back to the storage room. Back to the beige door. I stood there, listening. The footsteps were louder now, more urgent. Back and forth. Back and forth. Then they stopped, right at the door. I heard a voice, muffled, distorted, like it was coming from underwater. "Can you see me?" My blood went cold. "Can you see me on the camera?" I ran. Back to the security office, back to the monitors. Camera 31 was showing the hallway, and the figure at the end was moving now, walking toward the camera. Slowly, deliberately, getting closer with each step. I could see the face now. Asian man, mid-30s, tired eyes, security uniform, name tag, Chen. He stopped right in front of the camera, staring directly into the lens. His mouth moved. No sound, but I could read his lips. Help me. I should have quit that night. Should have walked out. Never come back. But I kept thinking about Marcus. Trapped somewhere, asking for help, reaching out through a camera that shouldn't exist, from a hallway that wasn't there anymore. I went back to the 6th floor, back to the door. This time I brought tools from the maintenance closet. Crowbar, hammer, bolt cutters. I was going to open that door. But when I got to the storage room, something was different. The door was open. Just slightly. An inch, maybe 2. Dark inside. That breathing sound again, but deeper now. Multiple sources. Not one person. Many. I stepped closer, raised my flashlight. The beam caught something moving in the darkness. Uniforms. Security uniforms. Dozens of them. All facing the door. All watching me. I slammed it shut. I quit the next morning. told them there was a family emergency, moved to another state. That was 4 years ago. I've worked other security jobs since then. Normal places, busy places, buildings full of people during the day. I never work nights anymore. But sometimes when I'm alone, I think about Camera 31, about Marcus Chen and whoever else is in that hallway, about the door that shouldn't exist. I wonder if they're still walking back and forth, still asking for help, still waiting for someone to see them. And I wonder if the next guard at the Meridian complex has noticed the camera yet, the one that shouldn't be recording.
The St. Agnes Medical Plaza was built in 1987. It was supposed to be a hospital, full surgical center, emergency department, the whole setup. But the funding fell through before it opened. The building sat empty for 2 years. Then it was converted to administrative offices, medical billing, insurance claims, record storage. By 2018, even that was gone. Everything moved to digital, cloud servers, remote work. The building was scheduled for demolition in 2020.
I was hired in January 2019 to keep an eye on the place until then. 12-hour shifts, 8 p.m. to 8 a.m., just me and the security cameras. St. Agnes had a modern surveillance system installed just before they abandoned the building. 64 cameras, full color, motion detection, cloud backup. The control panel was in the main lobby. 3 large monitors showing a grid of feeds. You could pull up any camera, check recordings, set alerts. The building had 5 floors, basement level.
Ground floor, then floors 2 through 4. 5 floors, 64 cameras. That's what the system said. It started on my 3rd week. I was doing my usual routine, walking the floors, checking doors, making sure the homeless population hadn't broken in through the loading dock. My phone buzzed. Motion alert. Camera 47, 3rd floor, east wing. I pulled up the feed. Empty hallway, fluorescent lights, those acoustic ceiling tiles that every medical building has. Nothing moving. Probably a rat.
Or the building settling. Old places do that. I cleared the alert. 10 minutes later, it happened again. Camera 47. This time I watched the feed more carefully. At first, nothing. Then, just at the edge of the frame, a shadow moved. Quick, deliberate, like someone stepping out of view. I grabbed my flashlight and headed up. The 3rd floor was mostly record storage. Rows of filing cabinets, boxes stacked to the ceiling, that smell of old paper and dust. I walked to the east wing, found the hallway where camera 47 was mounted. Everything looked normal, but there was something wrong with the air. Cold, much colder than the rest of the building. And a smell, faint but distinct, antiseptic, iodine, that hospital smell, which made no sense. This building never functioned as a hospital, never treated a single patient. I checked every room, every corner. Nothing. I was heading back to the lobby when I passed the elevator bank. St. Agnes had 3 elevators.
2 were locked off, permanently disabled. Only 1 was operational, the one I used to get between floors. But as I walked past, something caught my eye. The call button for the 3rd elevator was lit. Not just lit, blinking. I stopped, stared at it. The elevator dinged. The doors opened. I looked inside. Empty car, dim lighting, that same cold air. The floor panel showed buttons for 5 floors. Basement, 1, 2, 3, 4. Standard. But there was another button, below the basement level. No number.
No letter, just a blank button. And it was glowing. I should have let the doors close, should have gone back to the lobby. But something about that glowing button pulled at me. Curiosity, or stupidity, sometimes they're the same thing. I stepped inside. The doors closed immediately. I reached for the button panel. The blank button felt warm under my finger. I pressed it. The elevator dropped. It fell for too long. past the basement. Deeper. The lights flickered. The car shook. That antiseptic smell got stronger, mixed with something else. Copper. Rust. Blood. My phone lost signal. The screen went dark. The elevator jerked to a stop. The doors opened. I was looking at a hospital corridor. Not an administrative office, not a record storage area. A real hospital. Active, fully equipped. White walls, linoleum floors, that distinctive pattern of scuff marks from gurneys and wheelchairs. Fluorescent lights humming overhead. Nurse's station to my left. Empty. Patient rooms lining both sides of the corridor. Signs on the walls, color-coded departments, directional arrows. But no people. No sound except the lights and the distant hum of ventilation. I stepped out of the elevator. The doors closed behind me immediately. Every detail was perfect. Medical equipment in alcoves, hand sanitizer dispensers, biohazard bins. I looked into one of the patient rooms. Hospital bed, IV stand, monitors, all the equipment ready to go, but covered in dust. Not a thin layer, thick, years of accumulation. Like this place had been abandoned for decades. But that was impossible. This floor didn't exist. The building was only 30 years old. This equipment looked like it was from the 70s. I checked another room. Same thing. Everything in place. Everything covered in dust. Except one detail. The bed was disturbed. Sheets pulled back. Pillow indented. Like someone had been lying there recently. On the wall between rooms, there was a bulletin board. Photos. Dozens of them. Polaroids. Old film prints. Staff photos. Group shots of doctors and nurses. All wearing outdated uniforms. Hairstyles from decades ago. I looked closer. One photo showed a man in scrubs, smiling at the camera. The caption at the bottom said, Dr. Richard Voss, Cardiology, 1974. Another showed a nurse, young woman, dark hair. Patricia Mendez, Emergency Department. 1976. These photos were from the 70s, but St. Agnes wasn't built until 1987. I kept walking, following the corridor. It curved, led to another junction. More patient rooms, more equipment. Then I saw the nurse's station. The monitors were on, all of them, showing patient vitals, heart rates, blood pressure, oxygen levels, room numbers, patient names, all active, all registering data. But the rooms were empty. I leaned closer to one monitor. Room 347. Patient. Marcus Chen. Heart rate, 62. Blood pressure, 118/76. Status, stable. I felt my skin crawl. Marcus Chen. The guard from the Meridian complex. The one who disappeared. How was his name here? I checked the next monitor. Room 349. Patient Jennifer Ruiz. Room 351. Patient David Park. Names I didn't recognize. All showing as active patients. All in empty rooms. That's when I heard it. Footsteps. Not close. Somewhere deeper in the floor. The rhythmic squeak of rubber soles on linoleum. Then a voice. Female.
Patient in 347 needs rotation. Check vitals. Copy that, on my way. I couldn't see anyone, but I could hear them, clear as day. Walking, talking, working. Invisible staff tending to invisible patients. I backed away from the nurse's station. The voices were getting closer. I turned a corner, found another corridor. At the far end, mounted on the wall, was a security camera. Modern, digital, identical to the ones in the rest of St. Agnes. I walked toward it,
looked up at the lens. Then I realized. This was camera 47, the one that kept triggering motion alerts, the one that showed the 3rd floor. But I wasn't on the 3rd floor. I was somewhere else entirely. Somewhere below. Somewhere that shouldn't exist. My phone suddenly had signal again. 1 bar. Flickering. I pulled up the security app. Connected to the St. Agnes system. Pulled up camera 47. The feed showed me, standing in the corridor, looking up at the camera.
But the timestamp was wrong. The feed said it was 11:47 p.m., January 15th, 2019. My phone said it was 2:23 a.m., January 16th, 2019. I'd lost almost 3 hours. Then I noticed something else in the feed. Behind me, down the corridor, figures, dozens of them, wearing scrubs, lab coats, security uniforms, all standing perfectly still, all facing my direction. I spun around. The corridor was empty. I looked back at my phone. They were still there on the camera, getting closer. I ran.
I sprinted back the way I came, past the nurse's station, past the patient rooms, looking for the elevator. But the corridor kept changing, turns that weren't there before, doors that led to more hallways. The whole floor was shifting. Behind me, I could hear them. Not footsteps anymore. Wheels. Dozens of gurneys rolling across the linoleum. Metal squeaking. Wheels rattling. Getting louder. I turned a corner and saw it. The elevator. Doors open. Car waiting. I threw myself inside. Slammed my hand against every button. The doors started to close. Just before they shut, I saw them. Filing into the corridor from every room, every doorway. Doctors, nurses, patients, some on foot, some on gurneys, all moving toward the elevator, all silent, all staring. The doors closed. The elevator rose, past the basement, back to the ground floor. The doors opened to the main lobby. I stumbled out, checked my phone. 2:31 a.m. I pulled up the security system. Camera 47, 3rd floor.
East wing. Empty hallway. No movement. I scrolled through the recorded footage. There was a gap. From 11:47 p.m. to 2:23 a.m. Nothing recorded. Like those hours never happened. I filed a report, told the property management everything. They sent an inspection team. They found nothing unusual. 5 floors, 64 cameras, everything accounted for. No hidden floor, no mysterious elevator button. They said I'd fallen asleep, experienced a stress hallucination. Night shifts do that to people.
But I know what I saw. I know where I was. I worked at St. Agnes for another 3 months, until the demolition started. The 3rd elevator never worked again, permanently sealed. Camera 47 never triggered another motion alert, but sometimes, late at night, I'd check the feed, and I'd see them, just for a moment. Shadows moving in empty rooms. Figures standing at the end of the corridor. All of them waiting for the next person to press that blank button. For the next person to visit the floor that was never on the map. They demolished St. Agnes in July 2020. I watched it on the news. Wrecking balls, explosives, the whole building coming down. But I did some research first. Pulled old records, talked to city planners, checked historical archives. Turns out there was a hospital on that site before. St. Agnes Medical Center, built in 1968, active until 1984. Then it burned down. Fire started in the sub-basement, spread through the ventilation system. 17 people died, staff and patients, trapped in the lower levels. They bulldozed the ruins, built the new St. Agnes on top. Nobody talked about it.
too much liability, too much trauma. But the floor plans showed something interesting. The original hospital had 6 levels, 5 above ground and 1 below. A surgical wing in the sub-basement, operating rooms, recovery wards, emergency overflow. The floor that burned.
The floor where 17 people died. The floor I visited. I don't work security anymore, but I still think about that hidden floor, about the invisible staff tending to invisible patients, about Marcus Chen's name on that monitor, about the people standing in empty doorways, waiting. I wonder if they know they're gone, if they realize the building above them was demolished, or if they just keep working, keep walking those corridors, keep checking those vitals, forever.
In a hospital that exists somewhere between then and now, on a floor that was never on the map.
I got hired at the Westfield Distribution Center in August 2022. It was my first real security job. I was 23, just out of college, needed the income. The job posting said it was temporary, 6 months, just until they completed the facility transfer. Westfield was closing, moving operations to a newer facility upstate. Everything was being relocated: equipment, inventory, records. My job was to monitor the empty building during the transition. Standard overnight shift, midnight to 8 a.m. Me and the cameras. Nothing complicated. Westfield was massive, 300,000 square feet, high ceilings, concrete floors, industrial shelving that stretched 30 feet high. It handled medical supplies, everything from bandages to imaging equipment, shipping to hospitals all over the region. By the time I started, 90...
Just stay on the live view. Don't dig through the archives. Makes the job easier. Then he left. That was my last night with training. For the first few days, everything was fine. I'd arrive at midnight, check in at the main office, head to the security room. The building was silent, just the hum of emergency lighting and the distant sound of HVAC. I'd do my rounds, walk the warehouse floor, check the loading docks, make sure all the doors were locked. Then back to the security room. Watch the cameras, read, listen to podcasts. Easy money. But on Friday night, I noticed something. It was around 2 a.m. I was watching the monitor bank. The feeds cycled through different cameras every few seconds. Then camera 23 came up. It showed the main warehouse floor, rows of empty shelving, concrete aisles. But something was different. The shelving wasn't empty. It was fully stocked, pallets everywhere, boxes, equipment. Like the warehouse was still operational. I blinked, leaned closer. The feed cycled to the next camera. When it came back to camera 23, the warehouse was empty again. Just like it should be. I told myself it was the glitch Dennis mentioned. Old footage bleeding through. I didn't think about it again. But it kept happening. Not every night, not even every shift. But once or twice a week, I'd catch it. A camera showing the building as it used to be. Fully lit, fully operational. Camera 08 showing the break room with people sitting at tables. Camera 14 showing the offices with desks and computers. Camera 31 showing forklifts moving through the aisles. It was always brief, a few seconds. Then back to the empty building. I started making notes. Which cameras, what times, what I saw. The glitches always happen between 2 a.m. and 4 a.m. Always showing the warehouse in operation. And always showing people. After 2 weeks, I couldn't help myself. I waited until 3 a.m. The building was dead quiet. Then I opened the security system archives. Dennis told me not to, but I needed to see. The system stored footage for 90 days, rolling deletion after that. I scrolled back, looking for patterns. August, July, June. Thousands of hours of footage. Empty building, night after night. But then I found something. A file dated March 18th, 2022. The timestamp said 3:17 a.m. I opened it. Camera 23. Main warehouse floor. But the warehouse wasn't empty. There was a person. Security guard. Walking the aisles. Flashlight in hand. Doing exactly what I did every night. I watched him walk past the camera. Out of frame. Then the feed switched to camera 24. There he was. Moving through the shipping area. Checking doors. I followed him through multiple cameras. He completed his entire route. Then headed back to the security office. The recording ended. I checked the details. File name. Shift recording 03/18/2022. That was 5 months before I was hired. Dennis said the building had been mostly empty since January. So who was this guard? I pulled up more files. Searched for other recordings from March. I found dozens. March 17th, March 16th, March 15th. All showing the same guard, walking the same routes. But the warehouse in the footage wasn't empty. It was fully operational. Shelving stocked, equipment running. Like the shutdown never happened. I kept digging. February, January, December 2021. More recordings. Different guards. But always the night shift. Always the same routine. And always the warehouse looking operational. Even though the record showed it was already winding down. Then I found something that made my blood run cold. A file dated August 23rd, 2022. That was 2 weeks ago. My second week on the job. I opened it. Camera 23. Main warehouse floor. There was a person walking the aisles. Security guard. Flashlight. Following the standard route. I watched for a few seconds before I realized. That was me. I was watching myself on a recording from 2 weeks ago. But here's what made it wrong.
In the recording, the warehouse wasn't empty. Behind me, in the background, there were pallets, equipment, activity. Like the place was still running. But I remembered that night. The warehouse was empty. It had been empty since I started. The recording showed something different. I started checking the recordings every night. Every shift I worked appeared in the archives, but the footage never matched my memory. In real life, I walked through an empty building. In the recordings, I walked through an operational warehouse, people in the background, forklifts moving, lights on. I re-watched them obsessively, pausing, zooming in, looking at the faces in the background. Most were blurry, too far from the cameras, but occasionally I'd catch a clear shot, and I recognized them. I found a staff directory in the old office files, photos, names, positions. I started matching them. The forklift operator in the background of camera 31, Robert Diaz, hired 2018, transferred out June 2022. The person in the break room on camera 08, Sarah Mitchell, logistics coordinator, transferred out April 2022. The supervisor near the loading docks on camera 19, James Keller, operations manager, transferred out March 2022. They were all real people, all former employees, but they appeared in recordings from after they'd left, in recordings from my shifts I remembered being completely alone. I called Dennis. It was 4 a.m. I didn't care. He answered after 6 rings, groggy, annoyed. I told him about the recordings, the people, the mismatched footage. He was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "I told you not to look at the archives." I asked him what was going on. He sighed. "The cameras don't show what's happening," he said. "They show what happened, what should be happening, what the building remembers." I asked what that meant. "Westfield operated on that site for 40 years, he said. Every night, every shift, same routines, same routes, same people doing the same jobs."
The cameras recorded all of it. Thousands of shifts, thousands of hours. When they shut it down, something didn't stop. The building kept recording, kept remembering. The footage you're seeing isn't live. It's not the past either. It's everything layered together. Every shift, every guard, every employee, all at once. I asked if he was serious. "You're not alone in that building," he said. "You're just the only one in the present." Then he hung up. I didn't believe him. I couldn't. But I decided to test it. The next night, I did something different. Instead of following my normal route, I walked backwards. Started at the loading docks, moved toward the offices, then to the warehouse floor. Completely opposite of the standard pattern. Then I went back to the security office, pulled up the recording of my shift, watched myself on the cameras. In the footage, I was walking the normal route, forward, not backwards, starting at the warehouse floor, moving toward the loading docks. The recording showed me doing what I was supposed to do, not what I actually did. I started watching the live feeds more carefully, looking for them. The other guards, the other shifts. I'd see them sometimes. Shadows crossing between cameras. Movement in areas I knew were empty. Once I saw someone standing at the end of an aisle. Just standing there, facing away from me. Security uniform, same as mine. I called out. The figure didn't move. I walked toward it. The figure faded. Not quickly, slowly, like a video dissolving. By the time I got there, nothing remained. It got worse. The overlaps became more frequent. I'd be walking through the warehouse, and I'd hear footsteps, echoing mine, slightly out of sync. I'd see flashlight beams moving in parallel with mine, casting shadows that didn't match. I'd check a door, and it would already be unlocked, even though I'd locked it an hour before. The building was playing out every shift simultaneously. Every guard had ever walked these floors.
Every route, every check, every moment, all happening at once. My last shift was December 15th, 2022. The building was scheduled to be fully shut down the next week. I came in at midnight like always, did my rounds, checked the cameras. Around 3 a.m., I decided to look at the archives one more time. I pulled up December 15th, 2022. The current date. There was already a recording. Time-stamped 3:47 a.m. That was 45 minutes in the future. I opened it. Camera 23. Main warehouse floor. There was